Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video. So here we are today. Our van is still broken, unfortunately. It's still in the mechanics and we haven't heard anything back yet, so we're hoping the whole no news is good news thing is a thing in this case. But for today's video I figured I will challenge myself once again to go locally and see if I can create some nice photographs to share with you all. Now I'm on the Shoelace Express, as you can see, because this particular place is literally, it's about 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5-minute walk from where we're staying. And I grew up pretty much here. Like the other video when we shot in the park, this particular place is even closer to where we live. And so it's very, very familiar territory for me. But so it's great, but it's right next to the big motorway that runs through Dublin. So here I am underneath the bridge. So today's video is all about, one, like my good friend Owen says, is that you can always find something to photograph, which is absolutely true. Number 2 then is to motivate, I suppose, because before I came out I was like, oh, I don't know about doing this, and then I figured, why not get out, give it a try, see what happens. And if it works out, then hopefully it will be a motivator for anybody else then who, you know, is thinking, maybe I won't go out today. Because like we say, surely there's going to be something to take a picture of. But anyway, let's continue on the path. We're almost there. And let's set up and take some photographs. I'll show you where we're going now. So welcome to the Fear House Weir. I grew up in Fear House, if you don't know. And you know what's crazy? I literally just arrived here, and Orla and I were here maybe a couple of weeks ago just out for a walk. And I said, my God, imagine how amazing it would be if there was a heron standing at the top of this and getting a nice little long exposure and the heron nice and still. And sure enough, there's a heron right there. So I need to set up real quick and let's see if we can get a shot. So I have set my camera up here and I am zoomed in at probably around 75mm. And we are looking at the heron, and he's framed himself up very, very nicely. So fingers crossed this image turns out to be any good, and if it does, I will pop it up on the screen for you now. Welcome friends to the ASMR Photography Studio, and welcome to my local stamping ground. As I was rambling on moments ago, I could not believe my luck when this heron was so perfectly perched atop this beautiful little cascade. In a mad panic, I managed to frame this particular shot, and I am thrilled with how it turned out. An absolutely wonderful environmental portraiture style image, and this picture I will absolutely remember forever because it was such a lucky instance. So what an absolutely wonderful way to start this video. He's dondered off a little bit off to the edge there, so I'm delighted I was able to get a shot of him. I really hope it turned out well, and you guys would have obviously seen it classically ASMR Photography Lab style. But another thing that I wanted to, I suppose, showcase or emphasize in this video was just, I suppose, my own kind of approach to how I go about photographing and things like this. As you probably would know if you watch the videos, I always tend to usually start wide and then, you know, kind of narrow the focal range to try get more kind of abstracty things, and it's probably pretty much how today is going to go as well. But I'm delighted because it was actually raining last night, and we were supposed to go up for sunrise this morning, but the conditions were so bad, the rain. So I'm actually thrilled because being here now at the Weir, the flow is quite heavy. So, you know, just standing here, even at a place like this, there are compositions just coming out your eyeballs, really, like. And, you know, and like I say all the time, it's difficult to look past, I'm not going somewhere amazing. But really, this is amazing. And I can't believe that there was a heron right there. Hopefully he comes back into another couple of pictures. But anyway, I am going to set up a bit of a wide shot, and hopefully that turns out to be some kind of decent. But yeah, it's really, really wonderful. So delighted to be here already, and we've only just started. So let's continue on. So here's the first of 2 images that I captured on my 16-35 as I was overlooking this beautiful, beautiful waterfall. I particularly like this one because I intentionally processed it quite blue because it was freezing cold. And I wanted to try my best to relay that in this image here. And for me, the streak of white that runs through the frame really adds a beautiful contrast between that cold blue in the frame. Now, here we are faced with a new black and white image. I'm not entirely too sure if I like this or not, but I chose to include it for constructive criticism, of course. As you all know, I am on a black and white adventure, and I felt that this particular frame worked well as a black and white. I'm probably not so keen on it more for its composition than it for the processing of the black and white itself. Felt like I needed to include it because the overall kind of story of this video being, you know, what's drawing me into this, and for me this frame worked better as a black and white image. But I would be very curious to hear your feedback down below for sure. So I am playing around now. It's my first time stacking these filters, the KASE filters that I recently got. Excuse me. And I'm just trying a few different exposures. I'm at about 13 seconds now. So I'm just kind of playing around with exposures. I'm shooting, oh, there's the heron. No, did you see him? I love herons, they're amazing. So I'm just playing around with different exposures. Just to play around with different exposures. I've got my 16-35 on at the minute, and I am just playing around again, exposures, focal lengths, and just having a blast. It's great. I'm so delighted. So if any of these pictures turn out to be any good, I will pop them up on the screen for you now. So this is a kind of a grand overview of this weir that we find ourselves in for this week's video. I really love the strong line that's, you know, predominant throughout the frame and ultimately walks us through the frame. And of course then the strong line being nicely mirrored on the left and right with this beautiful, beautiful cascading water as it meanders its way through the Dodder River. This particular image was shot at around 13 seconds, and when reviewing the images for the shorter exposures and this particular one, I ultimately preferred this longer exposure just because it added that extra kind of ethereal dreaminess to the overall frame, and really I feel like it's worked very well in kind of capturing an overview of this particular location. So I have come up to one of the other kind of platforms. There's a couple of viewing platforms. When, like, before they kind of done up this place, it was very sketchy and, you know, it was very slippery and stuff. So they've actually done it up really, really lovely in the time that Orla and I were away. So it's a delight to come back to now. But I have come up. I was just down here behind me, if you can see, but I've come up now. And you know what? There's actually these wonderful kind of steps that are underneath the water, and that's kind of what I'm exploring at the minute. The polarizer is actually acting as a wonderful neutral density filter as well, which is bringing down my shutter enough because the water is so fast that I don't really need like even 3-stop neutral density on there because it's just kind of making its own you know, long exposure, and so it's really great. So I'm going to change to my 28-75 just to punch in a small bit more to these kind of steps, just so we can kind of start to explore that idea, these steps now. So if any of those pictures turn out to be any good, then I'll pop them up on the screen for you now. And here is the result of me playing around trying to find what you can clearly see as being more abstract images. There are 3 here in total that I ultimately settled on sharing, and 3 that I'm actually quite happy with how they turned out. But overall it was a really fun, creative experience, finding these steps underneath the water as if a veil was, you know, covering the concrete itself. And I really, really love how these particular images turned out. Some of them are slightly longer
smaller exposures, but ever so slightly. You're talking maybe, you know, a quarter of a second or so. And I think I was in and around maybe 1/8 of a second, which was long enough because, as I mentioned, the water was flowing quite strong and I didn't really need to add any ND filters on to create this lovely long exposure effect. But overall, really happy with how these images turned out. And again, just harkening back to the process I find myself going through and out taking photographs, these kinds of images always seem to kind of crop up for me, and I really do love them for that reason. So always a pleasant surprise, and I'm really happy with how these ones turned out.
So it's one of the really wonderful things about photography for me, is that when something catches your eye or you see something that's intriguing, you then just can go ahead and explore the creative possibilities behind what initially kind of caught your eye. And that's really what I love about it, and I hope I was able to kind of translate that in the images that you would have just seen. But I have come, oh, there's the heron, look at him. Oh, he's standing right there. Hold on. Okay, this is 18mm. I'm gonna quickly change lens and see if I can get a nice 100-400 shot of him real quick. So let's do that real quick. Hold on. So, as you can see, this heron has made a second appearance. I think it is the same one. I hope it is, because that would be awesome. And I was absolutely thrilled to capture these two images of the heron standing so elegantly and so still in the water. And the second image that we see here now, as he turns to face me, obviously eyeballing the water because his eyeballs are on either side of his head. I am absolutely delighted that I was able to capture extra images other than the cascades, and it's one thing that really always surprises me when going out. Going with the flow always yields such wonderful results, and I'm delighted that this fella was able to make a second appearance in the video. So as expected, I have changed to my 100-400 because even at 75mm, I really like this kind of front-on angle of the cascades that you can see here behind me. But I want to try and punch in and just isolate. I have nothing else but the cascades over the steps. So as I was predicted earlier, my 100-400 is going on, and I think we might be getting a small bit of light breakthrough, which would be lovely. If the heron landed in the middle of this frame, now forget about it. That's like full-on kind of like photogasm, as Mr. Hardcastle would say. But nonetheless, I'm going to shimmy on down to the water's edge here, and then I'm going to pop the camera on and let's take a few shots and see how we get on. So this particular image I'm including just because I like the kind of balance between the strong falls in the foreground and the kind of more ethereal vibe of the background. And as we get on to our next couple of images after my mad ramblings, you'll kind of see where I end up going with the images. And that's again another wonderful thing about, you know, having the time to explore and play around with compositions. So just getting back to the idea of like finding something within the frames that you're looking at and kind of, you know, playing around with different concepts and ideas around that. I noticed across the way that there's like a stick in the water in the cascades over there, and I'm just trying to play around with that to see if I can make anything happen. And it's proven to be a really fun experiment because it's contrasting. So anyways, I'll let that ramble happen in the ASMR photography lab. But I'm super happy with how these images are turning out so far. And again, just testament to, you know, it's totally cool just to go outside and take pictures. So yeah, really wonderful. But anyway, if any of these pictures turn out to be any good, I will pop them up on the screen for you now. So this is the result of ultimately what catches my eye when I am out in the field. I love this image for its simplicity, and two, the juxtaposition between that stuck stick, say that 10 times fast, and of course then the motion in the water really balances the frame for me so wonderfully. And then, you know, you've obviously then got the contrasting brown in the frame, and I really do love that about this particular image. And again, these are the kinds of things that just ebb and flow in my mind
find when I am out taking photographs like this. It's just, like I say, it's just what stops you and what catches your eye. It's a wonderful thing to explore and to create art with. Now, I did go ahead and process a second image in black and white, which I actually feel like is a much stronger representation of this location as a black and white frame. But again, I'd be curious to know which one you prefer in the comments below, so do let me know. But for me, the black and white, it's just a simpler frame, and I think I prefer that about this particular black and white image over the first one. Was chaotic and a bit too kind of busy. Honing in with the 100 to 400 really allowed me to find an easier, simpler frame, and then thus works better as a black and white image. But overall, really delighted with how this one turned out and all of the images from today's video. So yeah.
So folks, I think I'll leave it there for this one. It's a bit all over the shop really, but that's just the beauty of it really, isn't it? It's like you come out to do one thing and then a bunch of other stuff happens, and then it's wonderful. It's really great. And I can't be thankful to nature enough for all its beautiful splendor and glory. So yeah, don't be afraid to get out. And I only say that, I don't feel like I'm preaching at you. I'm more reminding myself as I look back over these kind of videos to not be so kind of apprehensive about going out and photographing. Just because you're not going to some epicness, there is still beauty everywhere to be found. So for now, I will leave this here, and if you like the video folks, do please hit that like button, and of course if you fancy following along for more adventures like this one, you're most welcome to hit that subscribe button. But for now, I will see you all on the next one. Take it easy everybody, cheers.